hot topic of the day. What can fantasy novels teach us about how to navigate our current reality? And are there any dangers to indulging in the fantasy genre? Now, since you've read a lot of fantasy books, I thought, who better to explore this topic with? But before you answer that question, let's narrow the parameters a bit. In the grandest fantasy epics, from the wizarding world of Harry Potter to the Rings of Power, there's almost always a chosen one, a single individual marked by destiny to carry the weight of the world. We love these stories because they give us a hero to root for, but they also plant a specific seed in our minds about how change happens. In our real lives, we often find ourselves looking toward the horizon for a savior figure, whether that's a tech genius, a revolutionary, a spiritual figure, or a political leader, to step in and fix the systemic glitches of our modern age, or perhaps to just help us cope. It's a comforting thought, but it raises the question of whether we are participating in our own lives or just waiting for the protagonist to arrive. So do you think the chosen one narrative helps us by giving us heroes to look up to? Or does it hurt us by making us wait for a savior instead of taking actions ourselves?
That's a really good question. I've read a plethora of fantasy novels, and there are a couple that are like maybe not the best written. I enjoyed them, but they weren't written as well as they could have been, in that they were sort of just waiting for somebody to help them the entire time. And then that encourages you to become a victim and like almost like the princess in the tower type vibe. But in my experience, the books that we're thinking, the chosen one is also done by chance. I mean, Harry Potter, he wasn't necessarily the chosen one. It was because somebody heard that prophecy, spoiler alert, somebody heard that prophecy and said, oh, that's Harry. When realistically, it could have also been Neville, and Neville's life was drastically changed also. It just so happened to be that someone thought it was him, so it became him through this change of events that multiple people put into action. So it was really the choice that was made for him. It wasn't him growing up to be this character where he was the only one who was able to do it, yada, 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 yada. In Throne of Glass, in Akatar, this is a character who maybe, yes, has had certain aspects of fantastical elements, and maybe there was someone who advocated for them on the other side of this fantasy, and they were just an ordinary person until they weren't. But because of those choices that were made and because of the way they acted upon it, they became this entity who then was able to fight and had that drive because of the other people in their lives. And there is a book series, Fourth Wing, that's really popular right now. And that main character, she was never intended to become a warrior. She was intended to become a scribe. She has a weakness in her bones and in her body where she is almost disabled to a certain extent. She's not the same kind of physically abled person that everybody else in the novel is, which just means she has to find other avenues for herself. And I think that's such a strong impact on how it is that anybody could be a protagonist. Anybody is the protagonist in their own life. I was talking to somebody recently about the new Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping. And I have not read it yet. I'm very excited to read it, so I hope this doesn't spoil anything for anybody else. But Haymitch was supposed to be the original Mockingjay. It just so happened that the course of events at that time were not set into place. He was supposed to be the original Mockingjay, and things just fell apart. And so he thinks, okay, well, this is never going to happen then. The revolution is a failure, yada, yada, yada. And then Katniss and Peeta were an accident. I think a lot of these are accidents, but they're the stories that we're getting told. Harry was the accident. Violet was the accident. Aragon was the accident. All of these things are accidents, but they're the stories that are being told. So we're assuming that they're a chosen one, but realistically, they're just taking control of the path that was put in place for them by multiple different avenues, happened by chance. I think it's a very powerful tool to tell people that your life is your own journey. And I don't think that being complacent is how you would live your life. But again, it all depends on how you read it.
Yeah. No, I was going to say what you said about Katniss from Hunger Games and Harry Potter. What I do like about both of those two is they kind of fall more into the classic hero storytelling in a good way, in the sense that they really don't want to be the hero. They're
right.
like constantly going, look, make someone else do it, have them do it. This person's better at this. He's a better military leader, or this person, Hermione's better at spells, whatever it is. But they end up just recognizing they have an impact. There's a lot of scenes. Again, I'm talking about the movies. I've only read 2 of the books of Harry Potter, but I do remember like that scene. Great example when I think it was the 3rd book /movie. when Harry Potter sees across that like pond that someone cast a spell that knocked away all the Death Eaters. And he was just like, it's got to be my dad. It's got to be my dad. And then when he realizes it later, that's not my dad. I don't know if when he knows, like, I have to step up, or he just sort of stepped up desperately, but he was the one who did it. And that's such a great, like, kind of lesson for us all. Is that if you're waiting around for another hero, for someone to save the day, when you actually have it in your own ability to do it, that's what is a profound point that is made in that scene.
I was at the Warner Brothers studio tour in London. And by the way, did you know that that stag that they have in the film, it's actually an Irish wolfhound that they just put Christmas tree lights on and antlers.
What?
Isn't that a wild thing?
Yeah.
Oh God, I was shook to my core when I saw that. But going off what you said, I don't think that Harry even knows what it was in that moment, that moment of realization, whether it was desperation, whether it was just submission to his fate, he probably doesn't know himself. There comes a time in our lives, everybody's life, where you just take action and you don't necessarily know why you're doing what you're doing or how you're doing it. You just do it. It's innate in all of us. At some point, you just know that, like, oh, this is going to happen. I think there's a scene, I don't remember which movie it's in, maybe it's the fourth one, where Harry drops his wand and then Voldemort picks it up and he, all of a sudden, his wand, like, sticks up to it. It's a great metaphor for just having that fight in you, even when you don't think you do, or you don't know how to go about it. That's what I really like about fantasy novels, is that it is true to life. No, we don't have dragons. We don't have wands. We don't have spells or magic or this or that. But we do have a fight in us, and we all have our journey. And for God's sake, like, I have, like, battles in my own life. Like, Harry's battles and trials and tribulations, we all have those. It just looks different from his. We're still pushing past it. I mean, Dementors are a metaphor for depression. We're all working through certain things and we have our different avenues of doing it. It's just, that's why in books, any book, I mean, even in romance novels, you have your hero and your heroine. And that's what they're called. The female main character is called the heroine and the male main character is called the hero. Because even though they're not going on a fantastical adventure where they're slaying monsters and riding dragons and casting spells, they are still on their course of adventure and they're fighting for what means something to them. It's a really great way to find confidence in yourself, to find your drive, to find your passion. I actually only started, like, boxing and going to Renaissance festivals and pole dancing because of fantasy novels, because I really wanted to be strong and capable like the people I was reading books about. Like, I just had this thought one day, and I remember writing a letter to my friend, an actual physical letter, because I'm a crazy person, in the mail, where I said I wanted to be strong, and I wanted to be capable, and I wanted to be powerful like these heroines that I'm reading about all the time. So I took action and I started taking these classes so I could feel strong and feel it in my body. And now I go out in the world and my friends call me the athlete of the group, and people call me confident and powerful. And that's how I find my strength. And it's all about finding the strength in the things that you want in your life. I think, again, it's all a metaphor, but I think it can only teach you positive traits. It's just what you choose to do with it.
How can ordinary people who don't have magic powers or massive platforms, in the case of some of today's celebrities and tech CEOs, how can they still create high vibe change in their own lives and in their own communities?
Realistically, I think it's just what we said earlier about cats and being present in every moment and in the interactions that you have with people. Because if you're creating that high vibe energy and you're creating these action-packed moments, it's because you're living. Like, I mean, yes, I do spend like several hours a week in my bed reading books, but I also am going out into the world and I'm taking action, and I walk on the street and I go to my job and I submit for acting jobs and I meet new people, and having those new interactions is what changes everything for you. So it's interacting in your space, in your kinesphere, and with human beings, being fully present, like cats, in that moment. I think that's what we can get from these fantasy books, because the difference between them and us is that they are being forced to be present because there is a fire-breathing dragon directly in front of them, or a Death Eater casting a spell, or a deranged capital saying you're going to fight other, like, teenagers to the death. Like, you're put in a life and death situation where your choices are fight, flight, or flop. And you want to be able to have that option to take in every aspect of your everyday life. I want to be able to say, I fought, I flew, or I flopped in anything that I'm doing in my life. And that's what it's really about, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it always starts with creating harmony and synergy within ourself and with our friends and our loved ones. From there, it's about exploration of the mind and the soul. But all along the way, lead with empathy. Like we said earlier, have an open heart, have an open mind, be creative, be curious. I mean, creative expression is a great way to align with your higher self, I believe, as well as reconnecting with nature. These are things I often do. And whenever I feel like there's just too much stress, outside pressure, whatever it is, you just go inward and then you go for a hike, something like that, just to get away from all the crazy stress. So another question is, do you think that diving into fandom is a way to hide from modern stresses, or do you think that fantasy stories give us the mental resilience that we need to face the real world? That was one of my questions, but I know you pretty much answered that. You do believe, for you specifically, it made you want to do things to improve your strength.
Well, I will say both. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite shy on the inside. For years and years and years, I used them as an escape because I was rather shy and I didn't know how to be confident and powerful in my everyday actions. And there was a lot that I was really insecure and nervous and anxious about, and I still am. And so I would use that as a way to find comfort and be like, I could be like that one day. And then I woke up one morning and I just said, I'm going to do it myself. And now I find that it's given me the confidence to take that on the outside. So I think both are true. It just depends on where you're at in your life and who you are and what it is that you're doing at that current moment.
So fantasy writers have to build entire worlds from the ground up. They decide how power is distributed and what a society values most. So if you could world build one specific part of the current reality from scratch, what's the first rule or system you would rewrite to make the world feel more high vibe?
Gosh, this is a really good question. I'm terrible at plot. Oh God, I would say there was definitely going to be more stipulations on how to get into the government system. Not in a dystopian era, but I would say in order to keep things more economical and available to the majority of the population, so that at the base level we can start building that high vibe, I would say there would need to be different stipulations for how to become a government official and how long you would be able to do that for. And also you would be forced to actually take the political changes that you were saying you were going to, like held to a certain accountability. So accountability and government action, I guess you could call it.
I like that. Yeah, like we were saying about athletes with performance clauses, some right. element of consistency, but yeah, medical records, and that's psychological too. We need to know, are you mentally fit? Are you able to do this job?
Right.
I mean, and then sure, financial compromises. There's so many things. I like that. That's a good answer.
Thank you.
When world building, lead with love. That's kind of my thing. It's far more powerful emotion and energy than fear. Love does conquer all. I just was going to share my final thoughts on this whole fantasy thing. I wrote them down though, just because
okay.
I write little notes, but I may not remember. Okay. So the line between a fantasy spell and the actions we take in our daily lives is thinner than we think. Whether we're world building our own careers, navigating the magic of new technology, or deciding if we are the chosen one of our own story, which we should definitely be. The energy we put into the narrative is what truly shapes our reality. Fantasy doesn't just have to be an escape, as you were talking about earlier. It can be a training ground for our imaginations, which is one step, the very first step really, in the reality creation process. You are the author, you are the architect. The magic is already inside you.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, just the idea, like, we really are the authors of our own lives. And therefore, I love this thing about words. They say the reason they call it spelling is because words, when you speak, you cast spells. So I believe that. I've gone through my own situations where I've had to sort of reprogram my subconscious mind in order to overcome potentially life-threatening medical condition. Another story we'll get into another time. But I had to do that. I had to go to this energetic place. deep in meditation, reconnect with nature. Like I said, all these things. And I wrote a bunch of affirmations that I just would listen to reprogram the subconscious mind to visualize getting physically healthy and healing. So that's something that really does. I love that idea about words. And again, you're such a person who appreciates words in novels and everything. So I thought you'd get like how powerful that can be for all of us. The words we speak to ourselves and others really carry so much energy.
That's why you should never speak negatively about yourself in your head or otherwise. That was a really big one that I had to learn, was because the more you, like, even if you say like, gosh, I'm so stupid, like, you start to believe that. The power that words have on your psyche and others is crazy. So it's really important to think so positively, like that positive mindset, that high vibe mindset does change your entire outlook on yourself and others.
We're gonna go.